Are you ready to seriously upgrade your VFX skills? Well, let's create this effect using generative fill and motion tracking. Let's dive into it. So I have my clip in After Effects and I'll export a frame for Photoshop, preferably a frame with most of the wall in the frame. And right here is good. So I'll go to Composition, Save Frame As, File. I'll render it out and I'll open that PSD in Photoshop Beta. If you don't have Photoshop Beta, you could download it through the Creative Cloud app. Now in Photoshop Beta, I have my frame here and I want to select a nice portion of the wall. So in my contextual taskbar, I'll click on Generative Fill, click on the Reference Image button, and I'll upload my reference image, which is just an image that I generated earlier. And here I'll click on Remove Background and it'll leave just the design, which is great. So I'll add my prompt and I'll hit Generate. And you can see it generates a very similar result as my reference image. That's why I love this feature, because you could really hone in on what you're looking for as long as you have a reference. So next I'll rasterize this layer and I'll choose Select Subject. And with that selected, I'll choose Select Inverse and I'll hit Delete. And that's just gonna get rid of the excess brick. You can see the before and after here. So now my top layer has just my design. I'll save this PSD and I'll bring this back into After Effects. And with my PSD imported as a composition, I'll select my top design layer and I'll just drag it into my video comp on the top. So from here, we need to motion track the scene. So for this, I'm gonna use Mocha as it's a flat surface, so planar tracking will work great. You could also use the 3D camera tracker. Both will give you good results as there's plenty of tracking data to cling onto. So I'll click on my clip and I'll choose Animation, Track and Boris FX Mocha. And I'll click on the Mocha icon. And in Mocha, I'll click on the X-Spline tool to select the area that I want to track. Next, I'll choose Show Surface and Align Surface. Since my PSD is merged, it can maintain the comp's proportions. Next, I'll enable the Perspective option and track forward. And it's done tracking. It looks pretty good. I'll save this and close it out and go back into After Effects and I'll click Create Track Data. And down in Layer Export To, I'll select my graffiti layer and I'll hit Apply Export. And it looks really good. So I'll just make sure that my motion blur is enabled, and I can use a blending mode to blend it like hard light, and I can mess around with the opacity a little bit. And one last trick, I'll duplicate my video layer, bring one version to the top, and using my Luma key, I can key out the brighter parts, leaving just a shadow. And I'll mask out that shadow, and I'll track the mask using the tracker feature. I could use a darken blending mode to have this shadow cast on the graffiti layer. So here's our final result.